You know, I don't much care for Jim anymore. I know. How can I say that? He's so adorkable, he does funny pranks, what's not to love? Well, you know what? I stopped liking him ever since he turned into a total CIA stooge.
I owe them everything. I really do. The CIA is something that we should all not only cherish, but be saying thank you every single day.
Yuck. Whatever happened to the old Jim that I knew and loved?
So as it turns out, unless you're a young child or a prison inmate, you don't need anyone supervising you.
Yeah, that's the one. I miss that guy. Anyway, you have probably seen Jim's new show, Some Good News, floating around the internet. Literal self-contained feel-good stories like hospital workers making viral dance videos or a mailman giving out free PPE. Mailmen. Where do they get off, huh? With their smug bags. I'm just kidding. Actually, you know what? Trump, for Christ's sakes, fund the USPS, you idiot. Wait, what was I talking about? Oh, right. Some good news. Well, you probably seen the episode of the Cody Shody about the dystopic nature of these individual one-off feel-good stories. And you probably saw the Some More News, Some Good News video as well. Well, you know what? I don't know about you, but this crap does not fit my definition of good news. And so I think it's time for some actual good news. Some real good news. This is some good boy news. Well, hello there, and welcome to some good boy news. Let's start with what I'm sure is on all of our minds, fighting COVID. Let's start with a story coming to us from the anarchist news source, It's Going Down. They highlighted the work being done by Woodbine, a collective that came out of Occupy Wall Street and Hurricane Sandy organizing efforts. Woodbine operates in Ridgewood, a working-class immigrant neighborhood in New York City. It's Going Down explains that Woodbine has transformed their space into a mutual aid organizing hub for their neighborhood and have partnered with a local homeless outreach organization to start a food pantry. You can follow Woodbine on Twitter at WoodbineNYC if you want updates on what they're up to. For example, one tweet states, "We've been able to distribute fresh produce to hundreds of our neighbors, including dozens of home deliveries. Make a one-time or monthly donation using With Friends or Patreon at withfriends.co/woodbine/join. Wonderful work, Woodbine. You folks are certainly an inspiration to us all. Our next story comes to us from our friends at genstrike.org, who told us about the Navajo and Hopi Families COVID-19 Relief Fund. As the article explains it, with an average of 30% of residents of the Navajo-Hopi territory having limited to no access to running water, and many without access to electricity, the COVID-19 pandemic has intensified a decades-long infrastructure crisis. But there is hope. Volunteers with the Navajo and Hopi Families COVID-19 relief effort are addressing the food and water crises affecting people in the territory. And that's really awesome. Great work, folks. And if you'd like to learn more or you'd like to support their efforts, you can go to NavajoHopiSolidarity.org. Now, for our next segment, let's address a topic that is near and dear to our wallets. Rent strikes. As an article from The Guardian put it, tenants across California are organizing rent strikes for the month of April, arguing they will not be able to pay their landlords for the foreseeable future and that the minimal protections now in place fail to provide relief for vulnerable renters. And with rent often eating up 60, 70, and even over 80% of our incomes, this is a big bargaining chip renters can use to their advantage. Returning back to our friends at It's Going Down, they have two articles regarding rent strikes. One is on a group of tenants initiating a rent strike in West Shore, West Philly. These tenants are all rent striking against their corporate landlord, the Constellar Corporation. Best of luck and solidarity to those strikers. The second article is a promotion for the online town hall that was held by ATUN, the Autonomous Tenants Union Network, on April 18th. The online town hall was open to all tenants across the US and Canada. This meeting provided basic tools for organizing neighborhoods into tenant associations and tenant unions. Panel topics included building power during the pandemic, organizing a stewards network, and organizing on health and safety in the face of the coronavirus. The trainings were given in Spanish and English and facilitated by members of tenants unions working with the Autonomous Tenants Union Network. If you're interested in learning more, you can receive instructions via Zoom and be added to the ATUN email list by going to the link on the screen or in the description below. This is essential information. Keep up the great work, folks. And remember, if a rent strike is called, don't be a scab and flake on your own neighbors. We're all in this together. For our next segment, you are probably aware that I've had to join the ranks of the essential workers as a dishwasher to make ends meet during this crisis. So for this next segment, let's look at labor strikes. According to the progressive news outlet Common Dreams, hundreds of Amazon workers from across the US called in sick on April 21st to demand better safety standards at their warehouses. This was the largest coordinated action at the company since the coronavirus pandemic began. Over 300 employees joined the strike and refused to work. That's awesome. Let's show those bosses that it's the workers who provide value to the company, that it's they who rely on us and not the other way around. What else is Amazon up to? Well, apparently, the organization Amazon Employees for Climate Justice called for action against Amazon on April 24th and urged people to not give any money to Amazon on that date. The Amazon Employees for Climate Justice announced the virtual walkout during a virtual panel on April 23rd. The panel was attended by over 400 employee representatives from numerous Amazon departments, building solidarity between warehouse employees and the company's tech sector. Genstrike.org had this to say about the strike. This sort of company-wide unity represents a major victory for labor activists within the organization, and it showed. In New York, restaurant workers are organizing support for their immigrant coworkers who cannot access pandemic-related assistance. Let's keep this in mind. Undocumented workers will not receive stimulus checks or be able to access benefits like unemployment insurance, even though they pay billions in taxes through sales tax and their paychecks. The New York restaurant workers at Stardust Family United, SFU, a solidarity union at the Ellen's Stardust Diner in Times Square, have stepped up to help. The restaurant is known for their singing staff, and so they're using that in their organizing effort. You can make a song request via donating to their cause. So if you want to support them and you've got a song you want to hear, you can go to the link on the screen or the description below and help your fellow workers who are being left out of government COVID relief efforts and support these wonderful singing comrades. Our next few stories come to us from the folks at paydayreport.com. According to the first article, experts say that food processing plants are breeding grounds for COVID-19. And so it's no surprise that 1,000 immigrant workers from the UFCW Local 7 union walked off the job in Colorado. And non-union poultry workers in Georgia walked off the job as well to protest unsafe conditions. And in Timberville, Virginia, workers walked off the processing line at Pilgrim's Pride poultry plant after one coworker tested positive for COVID-19. You folks are all incredibly brave and an inspiration to us all. The next article discusses nurses, members of the SEIU Healthcare PA, who walked off the job at Brington Rehab and Wellness Center in western Pennsylvania to protest their lack of proper protective gear. Nurses at the facility say that they haven't been given N95 masks to wear around residents. After management turned down opportunities to discuss safety issues and hazard pay with the union, the nurses walked off the job. The union says it will not go back until they get proper protective equipment for the staff. Great work, folks. See to it that you get the protective gear you require. In fact, paydayreport.com is full of stories like these, and they even have this wonderful interactive strike map, as plugged by Non-Compete in his recent video. Here you can see what strikes are happening and where. Make sure you hop on there and find out about local strikes in your area. Maybe there's something you could do to support your local striking workers. Next, let's look at a group that is often ignored in times of crisis, whether it's being abandoned during hurricanes or earthquakes or during a global pandemic. Let's turn our attention now to prisoners. Well, apparently, in some states, U.S. officials have released hundreds of inmates from state and city prisons to reduce the risk of COVID-19 outbreaks. And that's some good news right there. However, there is still much work to be done. Quoting from an article from Common Dreams, more than 25,000 people attended a virtual rally held on Facebook and Zoom Friday, that was April 17th, in honor of Palestinian Prisoners' Day, to call for worldwide prison abolition as the coronavirus pandemic causes deadly outbreaks in detention centers around the globe. The article continues. During the rally, supporters made hundreds of calls to elected officials to urge them to back the Federal Immigrant Release for Safety and Security Together Act, First Act, a bill introduced this week by Senator Cory Booker and Representative Pramila Jayapal, to release immigrants from detention and halt most immigration enforcement during the COVID virus pandemic. Let's keep an eye on that First Act, because that would be some good news. In further news, 180 detainees have engaged in hunger strikes at the Adelanto ICE Processing Center in California. The strikers are protesting their lack of basic sanitation and continued confinement during the global pandemic. According to the American Prospect, detention center staff, including the head of psychology and the warden, met with representatives of the strikers for negotiations. Despite small improvements, the strikers are unsatisfied and will remain on strike. Happy to see you folks making some headway. See to it that your demands get met and your safety is ensured. In Kingston, Ontario, a car noise demonstration was held outside the Collins Bay Federal Prison. This consisted of a caravan of cars in solidarity with prisoners demanding to be released in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you, wonderful folks, for reminding prisoners that there are friends, family members, and concerned citizens who stand in solidarity with their demands for safety. On April 17th, a group of concerned loved ones and prisoner advocates in the Midwest took action against conditions at Statesville Correctional Center in Joliet, Illinois. They used life-size replicas of body bags to block the driveway of the prison warden, David Gomez. The body bags represented the ongoing accumulation of casualties from the COVID-19 pandemic at the correctional center. In front of the body bags, protesters demanded, among other things, to increase healthcare and medical supplies, to allow for free and unlimited phone calls, and to provide inmates with the same protective gear provided for staff. What a wonderful display. Let's see those demands get met. And now for the weather. How are things looking outside, Rad? Wonderful. And for our final segment, let's look at general mischief. Now, you seem to be pretty hip and with it, so I'm sure you've seen this video floating around online already, but I'm sure you wouldn't mind seeing it again. I know I'd love to see it again. In decline, play us out, folks.
Robin Hood and Little John walking through the forest, laughing back and forth at what the other has to say. Reminiscing this and that and having such a good time. Oodle-lolly, golly, what a day. Never ever thinking there was danger in the water they were drinking, they just guzzled it down. Never dreaming that a scheming sheriff and his posse was watching them and gathering around. Robin Hood and Little John running through the forest, jumping fences, dodging trees, and trying to get away. Contemplating nothing but escape and finally making it. Oodle-lolly, golly, what a day. Oodle-lolly, golly, what a day.
Pa 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 pa
Alright, I think that's it for some good boy news. I can't think of anything else that's going on or coming up that I might have missed. At least nothing is coming to... Oh my god, it's almost May Day! I totally forgot! Please help me and tell me about what's going on for May Day in the comments below. And as always, I'd like to thank my wonderful patrons. Your tremendous support has allowed me to get dog insurance, which is wonderful. You've allowed me to support other creators I couldn't otherwise support, so gotta love that. And you've provided me with a little extra funds for books and dog toys and things like that, which is really awesome. I really appreciate you folks a lot. And if you like what I do here and you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/radicalreviewer. And if you're interested in radical theory or whatever, you can get your radical reviews here with the Radical Reviewer. Thanks for watching. Oh, and Jim, if that is your real name, reclaim your working man's glory. Be more like the guy I remember from that documentary. And plug some good boy news in your next installment of SGN. Or at the very least, start talking about some actual radical good news for a change. Thanks.